I just bought this BMW E39, which might have been a mistake. Despite that, I believe I can rebuild it and bring the car back on the road. Hopefully. This video will not end before I'm driving to the famous 4-cylinder BMW building with this BMW E39. A car that isn't even starting. And to make matters even worse, I don't have much experience with working on cars. But why? When I saw this car on Facebook Marketplace, I thought it was an easy repair. The seller stated it has no valid TÜV and it won't start because of a bad fuel pump. The good thing is, there was no visible rust on these pictures. Not so bad for the price he's asking. Till I found out why he wants to get rid of it. The TÜV inspection is long overdue. To be exact, it should have gotten inspection in 2017. Which indicates that this car hasn't been on the road for at least 6 years. And what's even worse, in real life, the car has so much rust, which wasn't there in the pictures. And as we all know, it could cost thousands in labor alone. And after suggesting if the seller would take half of the price he's asking, and then meeting in the middle, I bought it. Well, I guess I'm now a proud owner of a not in so good shape BMW E39. Known for being the best car BMW ever made. One of the most elegant but also sporty sedans in this era. But here is mine. The listing stated that the fuel pump is broken, so I want to check it. Turns out, it is broken. So I bought a new fuel pump and we will see whether it's running or not. So in goes the new fuel pump. And it was actually pretty easy to put it in. Oh, and the pre-owner also took out the battery, so I've got a solution for that. I've actually got the battery for free because somebody wanted to throw it away. And now we're trying to start it. But we've unfortunately got no luck with that. There was a leak through a missing bleeding screw, so I need a new one. But I was fortunate because I had a coolant pipe laying around with the exact bleeding screw that I needed. And after filling up the coolant, let's try to start it again. But this time we also had no luck. The car isn't even trying to start. And after searching for the possible cause in some forums, I might have found the reason why this car won't start. It might be the crankshaft sensor. Without a working sensor, the car's computer doesn't know when to inject fuel and ignite it. And after replacing, we're trying to start the car again. But my free battery was free for a reason. And as you can see here, I'm pretty frustrated. And to be honest, I don't really know how I'm able to fix the engine. So I thought it is a better idea to just focus on the rust for now. It has a lot of it. And I didn't expect that it is that rusty. So we are going to inspect the car and see how much rust there really is. I have never seen so much rust. Still, I wanted to take a look if there is more structural damage. So now we're cutting out the whole sill. And I'm not gonna lie, cutting in a sill of a car is pretty terrifying. Let's just hope there aren't any surprises waiting on us underneath this skirt. On the bottom, the sill is attached with some spot welds, so we need to drill them out. There were so many, and in total I think it took about 5 hours to remove half of the sill. Finally we can take a proper look at the structure underneath the sill. But before we are doing that, we are going to take care of the engine. I just want to start it and hear the engine run. Now you and I are both staring at the engine for the next couple of hours, asking ourselves what's wrong with it. Let's just go back and try to diagnose it like a mechanic does. So first, we are testing for a spark. And since there is spark, we now need to check the fuel supply. Well, we got a steady stream of fuel to the fuel rail. So let's check the injectors. And the resistance within the injectors looks fine. So they aren't shorted or something. But when supplying 12 volts to them, they aren't doing anything. So they are gumped up or broken. Since I couldn't get the engine to run, I've bought myself another engine. Perfect. And after changing the injectors, we're trying to start it. And it finally works! For the first time! And to not make our neighbors angry, we need to weld up the exhaust. Time to let the engine run to operating temperature. I wanted to take the car for a spin in the driveway, but I'm really glad that I didn't drive the car before, because we've got a broken spring. I didn't even see that before. Well, I bought something. And this will enable us to drive it in the driveway. So at first we are going to remove the wheel, and it was stuck on there pretty good. And here you can see the damage again. If the spring bores itself into the wheel, it is pretty dangerous. So therefore we need to replace it. So we are going to take off the stabilizer link and the bolt that holds in the strut. And now we are separating the strut from the wheel hub assembly. Now loosen the top mount, which is held in by 3 nuts. And right after that we are installing everything in reverse order. And now the car should be safe to drive. But later in this video we will find another thing broken that makes it dangerous to drive. But for now we're going to test drive it. Except the engine won't start again. I do have some new parts for the E39, and I think that's the last chance I give the car to run properly. If it won't run today, I think I'm gonna scrap it. Now we're going to take out all the spark plugs. And take a look at them. The tips are black, which means that the engine was running too rich. Simply, the combustion chamber had too much fuel in it. And the spark plugs were some no-name stuff, which cost €3 per unit. So we bought some from Bosch. And we also discovered an air leak in the intake boot. So now we're replacing it. At first we need to take out the airbox. Then we need to lose a clamp. And now we can take out the broken part. And here you can see the holes in it. Oh, and in the process of replacing this intake, I might have damaged the other intake boot. So I need to order a new one. And now we can try to start it. And it runs. It actually is pretty rough right now, but hey, at least it runs. The first time driving with this car, it just feels completely different than my BMW E46. It feels better, but this wasn't for long. The car's starting to shake and there's a little bit steam coming out of there, so I think something's wrong. Engine control light is coming on. I don't really know why the car is running so bad. Can you even see that the engine is a little bit rumbly? Let's see. And here you can see something's wrong with the air mass sensor. But this normally shouldn't be the issue why the engine won't start. Next time, trying to start the car won't start at all. Again. Well, it tries to start, but it simply won't. It just smokes like a smoke machine. So I've decided to remove the intake because I suspected there was a huge air leak somewhere. And other people with similar engines had some problems with an air leak in the PCV system. So they couldn't get the engine to run. Therefore I decided to take the other intake from the other engine. But before I could do that, I needed to swap all of the lines and I also clean it as good as I can. But while we are in there, I also swapped the camshaft sensor and the fuel pressure regulator. We've also replaced the air intake boot. And here we are measuring the compression of the engine. Please note that the engine is cold, so therefore the readings are a little bit lower. Well, compression on all cylinders is good. So now we're trying to start the car. I really hope the car starts now, because I've spent a lot of money. No leaks, perfect. But the engine still wouldn't start. I felt defeated and I need a win soon. So I thought it would be best to go on with the rust repair. So let's remove the complete sill. And suddenly I could take a look underneath the sill, and to be honest, it's not looking good. All the 6 years this car stood around left definitely its marks. So now I just wanted to do something I really can do. So I decided to remove the exhaust, the drive shaft, which was quite hard to remove actually. Now we are undoing all of the fuel lines and then the fuel tank. With the fuel tank now removed, I am able to inspect the rusted spots that I haven't seen before. At first we are just removing all the loose rust, and then I decided to cut out some metal. Or actually it isn't metal anymore, as you can see here. That's the sill of this BMW E39. Yeah. Now I'm wondering if I bit off more than I can chew. But after gaining some motivation again, I kept working. So let's use our motivation and remove even more bad metal. But before we cut out more of the structure, we need to remove the interior first, because I don't want to damage anything. Here you can actually see pretty good that the interior is green, which at the beginning was pretty unusual, but I quite like it now. And out goes the seat, and now we can lift the carpet. Now we remove the outer layer of metal, let's just call them the pockets. We need to remove these pockets first, because otherwise we can't cut the inner structure. Well, and here I just cut out all the rust that got into my face. It was a lot. And now we are ready for the first welding on this car. And this was also my first own-made patch panel. And to be honest, I was really proud of that. And here we are fabricating the outer layer of the inner structure. At first we are creating a template out of some cardboard. And right after that we are cutting it out of some metal. Trimming the excess material. And showing the metal who's the boss. Marking on the panel where it should get bent. And again, trimming the excess. And now removing all the dirt and all the loose stuff on the metal to make it blank. I've also did that on the other panel, on the car. And now we're spraying on some weld-through primer to protect it from rust. Creating the holes for the plug welds. And also here, weld-through primer. And now we're installing the panel, and then it is time for welding. But welding this panel wasn't easy. I've just burned in massive holes. And the welds weren't strong either. So I had to redo all of it. I've redone the inner section of the metal. These welds aren't looking very promising, but I've welded from the inside too, so it's pretty sturdy. Now I have to cut some metal for there till here. Let's see if it works. Yeah, it worked, but the welds weren't as strong as they supposed to be. So I needed a solution for that. The thing is, that these welds aren't really solid. And I kinda know why. I've used the wrong welding wire. The welding wire which is currently in my welder is a MIG wire. But because my gas bottle is empty, I haven't used any gas. So now I'm going to use some flux core wire, which is for welding without gas. I really hope that this one welds properly, otherwise I don't know what to do. So let's weld some test patches. This is my test metal, so penetration is pretty good, but I kept burning holes in it, so I don't know what to do. Well, after looking at the instructions of my welder, I found the reason why I keep burning holes in metal. The minimal amps for my welder are 40 amps. That's too high. So I need a new welder. And here it is. Let's unbox it and try it out. I want to note that this isn't sponsored. I just got a good deal on this welder. And here we are also trying it on some test patches. In my hand I'm holding the test patch with the new welder. At first I kept burning in holes, but after setting up the machine, the welds look pretty fine. And now I'm hopefully able to weld my car. And to be honest, welding was now so much easier with this new welder. But unfortunately I kept finding some hidden holes. So I needed to cut them out and replace them with some fresh metal. Now I just wanted to take all the pieces from the pockets and weld them back together so that we have a template. This is looking good, we can throw it back on the car, right? Enough joking, we need to remove more metal, but this time in the front of the car. But before we are finishing this patch here, we need to focus on the back first. So let's cut out the missing rust piece and then we can finally weld it all back together. Before putting on some new metal, we need to create a straight edge and also protect it from future rust. Now we are fabricating our patch panels. Test fitting time, and after trimming it looks good. So let's weld it on. And here's another rust spot. So here's before and here is after. And this is how we are looking right now. We protected all the metals from future rust and then we finished welding the whole inner structure. It might not be looking so good, but it is really sturdy. And I guess that's the important bit, right? Next up, we need to repair the section in the front. So here is my patch panel and we already welded it up. Looks pretty good. And after protecting it, it is time for the second layer. And now we are also done here in the front. And here are the pockets we needed to redo. They also look pretty fine and are really sturdy. I'm so happy right now. So let's again protect everything from future rust. And now it is time for the second pocket. So after fabricating some metal, we are welding it on. Just take a look at it. It seems pretty fine and it's pretty sturdy. I mean, I think you can even check the car up here. Guys, it's finally finished. The inner structure is finished. I think it took me about 2 months to get to this point, because you know why. We are finally ready for the outer layer. So I actually wanted to test fit it, but it doesn't want to fit properly. I'm going to prepare the car for the sill. And I really hope that I can get this done in about 2 weeks. To get the outer layer on, we need to remove the fender, the 2 doors, and I think that was it. Let's remove the doors. And now off goes the fender. It is held up by a few bolts in the bottom and a few ones on the top. And off it goes. Sill test fitting time. And seeing this sill on there was actually pretty cool. But before test fitting it properly, I needed to remove all of the old sill from the car. And sadly also modify our newly welded pocket. But now we can finally test fit it properly, except that it didn't fit. So we needed to modify our pocket even more. And since the sill wouldn't even fit after that, we need a bigger hammer. This hurts. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? And this time, it fits properly. So I can live with that. Now we're trimming the new sill in order to fit 100%. And we are also trimming the car a little bit. Now it is time to make the front checking point looking great again. And we are also painting the inner structure. And the sill looks pretty good, to be honest. But before welding it up onto the car, we need to do some household chores first. And these household chores are, we need to clean the sill and then protect it from future rust. Oh, and I almost forgot, we need to drill some holes in order to attach the sill to the checking point and to our pockets. Last thing I wanted to do before welding is removing the foam, because I feared that it will catch on fire. We are going to weld on the last missing panel on the driver's side, so let's start. But it might not be as easy as it sounds, because I've never done this before. So here goes nothing. I was nervous, but we needed to do it anyways. So I tried my best, but will it really look good? Well, I guess we will see that after we are attaching the sill on the bottom. At first I wanted to attach it to the checking point, because then we could lift up the car in the air again. And now we're removing all of the wheels, and then we are able to weld on the last missing spots. But before I did that, I wanted to test it on a test panel, because I wanted to make sure that it will hold up perfectly. Well, and now the real panel, where we aren't allowed to make any errors. I made my way through that. Slowly but surely, we are getting somewhere. Unfortunately, I made the hole for the front checking point too small, so now we need to cut it and make it bigger. And now the rubber checking point fits, so all that's left to do is to drill some holes and attach the sill to the checking point. And after grinding all of the plug welds, it is looking good. Oh, hey there! So now I'm going to finish welding the sill. Yeah. I don't want to do this anymore. But I knew I needed to do it. Now I'm beginning the more trickier part. Yeah, actually I need to cut a line down here and remove the tack weld here. I'm trying to make it as seamless as possible. I really hope that you can't see anything here when I'm finished. Let's try it. After grinding down all of the welds, I finally saw the full picture and it is looking good. Guys, we just welded on our first sill and it is looking good. I mean, look at that. And all that's left to do was to protect it from future rust. So I sprayed in about 1 can of cable grease into this sill. Since the engine won't run on this car, I have an idea. And it's a little bit different than you might think. So let's start by opening the hood. Okay, at first I'm going to remove the coolant. And therefore I need a screwdriver. Oh yeah, it worked. Now I'm going to these connectors and disconnect everything from the engine. And now we're removing the AC compressor.
That's so much easier than on the E46.
And now we're removing the belt for the AC compressor. And the last missing screw.
On the E46 it's pretty hard to get that off the gearbox.
And here I'm talking about the gear levers.
Yeah. So, okay, now comes my most hated clip. It's possible to grab it from here. No way.
Ha, gotcha. I just joked with you. It's not easier on the E39.
I've finally fished it out of here. Wow, that was hard.
And now we're removing all of the subframe bolts in the front. Off goes the clutch slave cylinder.
Out of here. Boy, come on. Thank you. Now I'm going to remove the steering rack. Now it's off.
And now we're removing all of the nuts that hold the struts to the car.
Now I'm taking off the intake.
Last step, we are removing the engine together with the subframe. And here is our big boy, which doesn't want to work.
Guys, I've bought another engine.
And here it is, the M52 TU B25 from an E46. And what's the first thing you do when you got a new engine? Right, you unbolt the rear subframe. The real reason why I wanted to do that is because the panel above the rear subframe is pretty rusty. And I just want to remove all of the rust to make it shiny and new again. But removing the rear subframe was almost a disaster. As you can see here, it almost fell on the ground. But luckily, nothing did happen because my reaction was pretty fast. And take a look at that here. I guess now you know why I wanted to remove the rear subframe.
I've actually removed all of the brake lines already. Yeah, you can see they are pretty bad. And here in Austria they are illegal, so I need to replace them with some original ones. And in my hand I'm holding 10 meters of brake lines. So now I'm beginning to remove the rust with a wire brush. I really hope that there is no hole in the metal.
But I did not expect what happened moments after.
My old angle grinder just gave up. It won't work anymore. Thank you. I've actually bought exactly the same model. It's pretty cheap and it's really reliable. Not sponsored, by the way. And here it is. Yeah, it's already dirty.
Well, I guess you can't prevent that if you are restoring a car. But with the new tool, I really made some good progress. Except that
my angle grinder is currently charging, so now it's the perfect time to cut the brake lines into the right length.
So at first we are measuring the old brake lines to make sure that the new ones have the same length. And after cutting, we're making sure the new brake lines have the same shape as the old ones. So therefore, we are putting them into the car and then bending them to the shape of the old ones. This took ages, but the results are pretty good.
I've tried to remove all of the rust with the tools I have. I really hope that the rust converter did its job good, because in these areas like here or like in here, there's no way for me to get in there. Now I really hope that these panels are protected for the next few years. It shines. I like that. And now I'm taking the newly fabricated brake lines and putting them in my car. Yeah.
But before we can do that, we need to flare them and put the connectors on. But as you can see here, I've made a mistake. And this mistake was bad. As you can see here, I've realized it that I haven't put on the connector. Basically the end of the brake line gets bent up in a conical shape. Before flaring you need to put on the fitting, otherwise you can't screw it into a connector. But the brake line was already flared, bent to shape and cut to size. So we had no room for another try. I had to redo it all again, the whole process once more.
Guys, I'm finally finished with the rear brake lines. Now I'm able to put in the rear suspension again.
But to be honest, I'm pretty happy that I did it all over again, because these brake lines are looking so much better. But right after I finished the brake lines, I've seen a huge, dangerous issue with my car. As you can see here, the shock absorber is broken. This can really be so dangerous.
But luckily I have 2 spares from them.
So let's make the car safe again.
Ah, like that. There are dog hairs in here. Was this a dog's car? Oh, nice. That's the original color. And that's the color it is because of the sun. Wow. Perfect. It's a boy.
And after reinstalling a new one, we can finally put in the rear subframe and put the car on the ground again. Therefore we need to align the rear subframe with the car and then just bolt it up. Done, finally. And now we're doing the same thing with the front subframe too. But this time it was so much easier because it is much lighter than the rear one. So now we are removing the wheels in the front and also in the back. And here you can see the rust holes on the co-driver's side. It looks so bad. So at first I just wanted to look for more rust, so I removed all of the underseal and then the rubber checking point. And also on this side the seal just completely tears apart. It's just like a crumbling cookie. But this time I know what I'm doing. So let's start by removing all of the rusty pieces, because I hope that I didn't have to replace the whole sill. But 5 minutes later I've decided I just need to remove the whole sill. Otherwise we are doing the job just half. So let's cut it out. And we are also drilling all of the spot welds on the bottom. And many hours later, I was happy that I removed almost half of the sill. There's not much left that's holding the sill onto there. And the bottom of the sill is finally gone. And here again, rusty mess. We need to remove it. Test fitting time. These sills are looking so good on this car. And since the method I used on the other side wasn't so good because it was quite hard to get it right, I decided to remove all of the sill from the car. So here I'm marking all the parts I can trim out. And now we're drilling about 369 million spot welds to remove the sill. And of course we also need to cut with an angle grinder. We are so close to getting it off. And off it is. And to be honest, the car is looking so fragile without it. So we quickly need to cover it all up. As you already know, we need to remove the foam first, because I don't want the car to catch on fire. In order to create all of the holes for the plug welds, we are using the old sill as a template. And after drilling all of the holes, we are finally ready for the final test fit. And it is looking good. And all that's left to do is to remove all of the rust from the checking points. We now have fully prepared the car, and we also prepared the sill. And now we are ready for welding. And here we go again, but this time I want to make it more beautiful than on the other side.
Guys, we've made it. I think these welds are looking far better than on the other side. Now we need to weld a few spot welds on the bottom, and then this side is also done.
And after finishing all of the spot welds, we are protecting the sill with some cable grease. Back into the engine bay. I also decided to remove all of the brake lines and replace them with new ones in the front. And also these brake lines are done. Now we're bringing our attention to the engine. At first we need to remove the gearbox, and then we can take off the oil pan from the old engine. We need to transfer the oil pan to the new engine, because the new engine is from an E46 and it won't fit on an E39. And of course we are cleaning it as best as we can. A new oil pan gasket, and now we are putting in the engine. This is a great moment. Will it fix all of our issues or not? So at first we are removing the hood for a better access, and thanks to my dad and to a great friend of mine for helping me out. And now we are putting in the new engine, which is quite unbelievable if you ask me. I was so happy, but still I didn't know if this fixed our issue. So let's quickly fix everything that's in our way to start the engine. At first we are removing all of the rust above the tank. Then we are finishing the brake lines in the back. Therefore we just need to flare them and put a connector on them.
Now I'm finishing the brake lines in the rear. So I really need to get it right, otherwise the ABS module could potentially brake the wrong side of the car. This line is connected to the left side in the rear, and this line from here is actually connected to the right side of the ABS model. Then the ABS model would think that this one is the right side, but it's actually the left side, so it could potentially spin the car. And I don't like spinning a car. So now let's start with these brake lines.
And I'm starting to hate brake lines, but we need to do it, so it was actually a pretty quick process. Please keep this moment in mind, because later we will find something out that shouldn't have happened. We tightened every line here. And now we are putting back the fuel tank. And also the drive shaft. Oh, and also the fan clutch was broken, so here's a new one. This was actually pretty satisfying. And in it goes. Remember, it is a reverse thread. Then we're putting back the old ECU from the old engine. And this is the first time trying to start the car without really trying to start it, because I have unplugged the fuel pump. I just wanted to get oil everywhere in the engine. And now the big moment has come. Will it start? Okay.
It works! Oh my gosh.
All that's left to do is to put on a new software onto the ECU for the bigger engine.
Guys, today we're flashing the software on the E39 and I don't actually have any idea what I'm going to do and how to do it. Well, I actually do have a cable for that and now I'm going to plug it in my laptop. Perfect. I've started the software. Now we're going to plug it in here. Ignition on. Well, it won't work, so I need to fix it. This cable was broken. I do have a new one and now it's working. Next step is to upload the new software to this ECU and hopefully then the car should start with the new ECU. I do have a file for the E39. I removed the immobilizer.
But will it start again? This was the first time flashing my car and it was a full success.
Guys, I have a little bit of a problem with the exhaust because I have an engine from an E46 and I do have catalytic converters from an E46. And the problem with that is the headers are different on the E46 and on the E39. But luckily I have the old headers with the catalytic converters from the E39 520i. So now I'm going to fit them on the car. Since the car stood about 7 years, I hope they work. The problem is the distance between these two is too small. Therefore, the exhaust wouldn't fit.
And after 8 hours of trying to fit the old headers, we finally made it. And the car is so quiet now. Here we are bleeding the power steering. But suddenly, smoke was coming out of the engine bay. I just figured that it was probably some oil I have poured somewhere.
We have some new parts for the E39. Perfect. Let's start the 5-hour job, which actually should take 20 minutes. Now I'm taking off the exhaust and then I'm going to replace this thingy here. And I need to replace the gaskets because they are not gasketing. Yeah. Well, the flex disc is definitely broken. A nice, shiny flex disc. And it is the wrong one. Look at that. I hate that. But luckily these two gaskets fit.
And after another parts run, we finally have the right gaibo. Here I just wanted to replace the last missing brake lines. They are probably over 20 years old.
Now we are going to bleed the brakes and hopefully then I can drive outside. So now I'm going to make sure that no bleeding nipple is seized. Okay. Hopefully not seized. Okay, it isn't seized. Perfect. The next step is to fill the brake fluid reservoir. It normally takes about 1 liter. The next step is to take a seat and pump the brake pedal a few times. Wow, it is easy. Now I'm going to top off the brake fluid reservoir once more. Oh no, there's something dripping.
Remember what I said before with the brake lines that I have torqued? Well, I don't know what happened, to be honest. But one connector was really loose and I have torqued all 4 of them.
I've just tightened it and now it should be good. It actually feels much better now. Wow, that's a workout. Okay. Oh my gosh, that's work. Whew. Is it wet? No, it isn't.
And here we are testing the clutch, because I want to know whether it goes in gear or not.
And finally, we are ready to drive.
This is the first drive after swapping the motor. And this car felt so good. Except that the front was a little bit loose.
Not that I'm surprised, because I haven't torqued anything in the front suspension yet.
So let's fix all of the broken stuff in the front. So I thought we are going to replace both tie rod ends and the inner tie rods. And after loosening both ends, we now need a hammer to hammer it out of the wheel hub assembly. And now we are making sure that the new tie rod has the same length as the old one. And by doing that, we should get almost the same tracking as before. And now we are just torquing everything up and then putting on the clamps for the boots. And the front wheel bearings were also done. So here are some new ones. Oh my god, I love these new shiny parts. And now it is time for some new brakes. So therefore we need to remove the caliper, then the brake pads and the rotor. And I just have to say it again, I love those new shiny parts. We are just putting everything back on as it came off. Now we're doing the exact same thing on the back. Look at these brakes, they are so rusty. So let's just replace them. done. And here we are also replacing both engine mounts because the other ones are toast. And since we need to lift the engine for that, I have put some jack stands in the back so that the car won't tip over. And here they are. I've also replaced all of the brake lines in the back and in the front. Let's get back to the bodywork. We are grinding down every single weld here, and this took ages.
I've grinded down all of the welds to the bare metal, and I do think it looks quite nice. So now I'm going to prime it with edge primer with a thin layer of it, and then I'm going to put on fiberglass filler.
But before we do any of it, we need to clean first. Now comes the primer and the body filler. And this is how the car looks right now. It's a mess, but we will fix it. Here we are sanding down all of the body filler. And now I want to put back on the fender and the doors, on this side at least. Now we can begin grinding and sanding all of it down on the other side.
Yeah, this is a non-runner.
And also here we are putting back on the doors and the fender. And here you can see our work. It looks really good, if you ask me. And all of the gaps are beautiful. So we have done it on both sides, and that's for the first time doing it. All that's left to do is to protect all of the welds, and in the front here I can't really grind them down, so I'm just using some sealant. But then we had a huge issue.
And as you already guessed, the engine won't start. Now we're trying to read the fault codes of the car. Hopefully there are some, because I really want to know what the issue is.
Okay, we have something. Vanos.
I'm going to unplug both of the Vanos solenoids, and then I'm going to try and start the car. If the car starts, then we have our issue.
So let's just try it.
It wants to start, but it can't start. I think we have another problem with the injectors.
So I tried starting it with some starter fluid, but nothing. So I wanted to test the spark plugs, and I think they are our culprit. So let's take them all out and then treat them with fire. And this was a great idea because all of the spark plugs were full of fuel and they couldn't ignite the fuel air mixture in the engine. I suspect I flooded the engine with fuel by letting it run for about 30 seconds each time I started it. So let's try to start it. Well, it worked.
I've just started it.
But of course, we had another issue with the engine. A coolant pipe was leaking and we need to fix that. So let's take out the old one and then replace it with a new one. In goes the coolant, and we also bled the system by unscrewing the bolt in the pipe, and there the air just simply escapes. Then I wanted to see whether the leak was fixed or not, but suddenly this happened. The engine just simply stalled and then stalled again. A little bit after, the engine wouldn't start at all. I had enough of this engine, so therefore I decided to take out all the stuff from the interior and clean it. And I wanted to remove all the underseal from the body, but seeing that, it was pretty dangerous because this was pretty near of the fuel lines. Fire and fuel isn't that good. So I made the decision to use my angle grinder, which was so much more safe. And it actually worked better. Still, it took a couple of days. Here we are using some rust converter to make sure that there's no rust left on here.
In order to paint the sills, I have bought a few bottles of primer. I have bought 2 cans of base coat and 2 cans of clear coat. My plan is to paint the underside with some primer first because the top is already primed.
So let's put on some covers to protect the original paint. Then we are cleaning the sills. On goes the primer. I have put 3 layers of primer on it. 1 light coat and 2 more heavy coats.
Well guys, we have a problem here. It's like, I don't know, snowfall. Well, it doesn't want to hold properly. I guess I'm going to take everything off again and redo everything and clean it with some isopropanol. I've just paid €5 for 100 milliliter. Pretty much actually. Wow. Take a look at that. I mean, yeah. Woo. Let's begin with removing the old primer.
So now we are doing it all over again. This took me about 1 extra day. And I'm trying to reach every spot that I haven't reached before. Now we're cleaning these sills with some isopropanol.
Guys, I've cleaned all of the sills up. I've removed as much primer as I possibly can because there are some spots I really couldn't get to, which is okay because it is holding up pretty good there.
And here we go again. 1 light coat of primer.
I'm flying Han style, solo. Do you like that Star Wars reference, baby?
And here we go again. And again.
Guess I'll see you around.
And again.
Busy week 2, I'm watching X-Files.
Guys, it's pretty cold here, so today isn't really the perfect condition for painting a car, but I'm going to do it anyways. Now I'm going to remove all of the doors, the fenders, and then I'm going to mask up the door frames. This should be it.
Taking off the fender was pretty easy because I only have bolted up like 2 bolts. And also removing these doors is pretty easy by now, except that they are still heavy. And here we are preparing the surface for the primer. Then cleaning again with some isopropanol and priming. And here we are already painting the sill. We are doing one light coat and one more heavy coat. And then comes the clear coat, also 2 layers.
I'm finished with the paint, and in my opinion it looks so good. Besides of that, you can see that there is some filler in here, but for my first time painting a whole sill, I think it looks pretty good. Well, I guess it's not perfect, but it's good enough for me at least. Yeah, this corner here isn't really beautiful, but I mean, for my first time. Let's take the plastic off there and see what the finished product looks like. It needs some work. You can see the line. You can see the difference between both colors. So I need to do something here. That's something for another day.
And now we are installing all of the doors again. I just can't wait to see the car fully assembled again. On goes the fender. And take a look at that. This looks so good. And on the underside, I've decided to spray on a stone chip protection paint, which is rubberized, and in my opinion it looks really good. And now we are trying to fix the engine. I have poured a little bit of oil down the cylinders because I thought the engine was flooded, so therefore it has no oil in the cylinders and all the fuel has evaporated by now. Well, it still won't start. And it definitely has some spark. But in a second you'll find out that I just was dumb. I decided to try to start it with some starter fluid. And it did something. So I decided to remove the fuel pump and see whether there is gas in there or not. Because my fuel tank level sensor isn't working. But a month ago I definitely poured in about 10 to 15 liters. So it actually should have got enough. But it didn't. So now the car is working. Now we are going to focus ourselves on the boot lid. It has a massive hole in there. So let's cut out all the rusty material. Fabricate some new metal. And weld it all shut again. And these results actually surprised me, because this looks really good. We just need to grind down all of the welds and put on some body filler. While I'm not finished sanding, I decided I want to do another thing. So I decided to seal up all of the underside. And at first we need to remove even more underseal. Then we could spray on some primer. Sanding again. So let's just fix up all the fuel tank straps.
And the thing with the fuel tank straps is they are no good for anything. So I have new ones.
They are looking so much better. And now we're finishing the primer on the underside. After that we are spraying on some black paint. Here we are putting on a rubberized paint.
I've been into cars ever since I've seen my uncle repairing my mother's car for the first time. And although he said he hates it because it is not working out like it should every time, I'm standing here, it has -5 degrees Celsius and I'm repairing my BMW E39. And I'm actually living my dream life right now.
Since we've replaced so many things in the front, I just wanted to replace both shock absorbers and the two control arms. So let's loosen the nuts that hold in the shock absorber into the wheel hub assembly. But now comes the scary part. I wanted to avoid using a spring compressor, to be honest. I just was scared. But I had luck, because somebody on TikTok had the same issue like me and also the same car. He had another way to do it. So I decided to give it a try. Basically, the guy on TikTok just put the car on the ground and then loosened the nut from the top mount. And now the spring is loose. But to my disadvantage, the threads of the shock absorber got stuck into the top mount. This was a bad idea. And now we are lifting the car up in the air. I just was panicking. I didn't know what to do because, you know, it's like a bomb that could explode any second, and that into my face. And here I'm putting on a spring compressor to make it more safe. And to be honest, I don't know how I've made it, but I could take out all the spring components, and I don't know how. But I think we can agree this was lucky that nothing happened. Now we are compressing the spring with some good spring compressors. Then put the compressed springs on the shock absorbers. Now we could bolt it back up in the car. And here is the control arm I want to replace. They are exactly the same part. And I'm also putting on some copper grease because I don't want to get rusted on there. And now we're putting on the whole assembly. And now we're bolting everything up for the anti-roll bar. Plug the ABS back in. This looks so good. So many new parts in the front. I just like it. In go the arch liners. And we also fabricated a new fuel filter holder. Let's put back on the hood. Well, we also have a problem with the driver's window. So I decided to take out the door cards and then torque the nuts that hold the window in the window regulator. And this happened because of a grommet that wasn't really there anymore. So here I am fitting a new window. And as you can hear here, there was a lot of glass everywhere. Well, hey, it works again. Now we're making sure that the car can see again. Look at these headlights. They are so foggy. And they are probably so foggy because of the sun. 25 years of sun rays. After taking them out, we are cleaning them and disassembling everything. Then we are starting to sand them down with some wet sandpaper. At first 180, then 240, then 360, then 600, then 800 and then 1200 grit of sandpaper.
And now I'm putting on the protective layer onto the headlights.
These headlights are looking so foggy right now, but we will change that in a minute. So let's pour in some of the chemicals and then let the cup heat up. And now you can see the magic show. They are like brand new again. So cool. I've also fitted up some new kidney grills. And now I want to paint the boot lid. So therefore we are sanding everything down and cleaning it. Then put on some covers to protect the paint. Spraying on some primer. And here I've already sprayed on some base coat. And I'm actually trying to heat the panel up because it was pretty cold on this day. I know it ain't perfect, but we will redo it someday. And here we are welding shot the last hole in the floor panel. So at first we're cutting out all the rusty material. Then we're making sure the surroundings are bare metal. And here we are creating a template with some tape and a dirty handshoe. And after transferring the template onto the sheet metal, we are cutting it out. And now we are welding it up. This looks so good.
My E39 currently has problems with the ABS. So you can see here ASC light is on and we have some fault codes here. So all you need to diagnose your car is this cable and a laptop. Ignition on. So now we are going to read the fault codes. And all we got is the ABS sensor in the front right. So let's replace the sensor.
Luckily, I had a wheel hub assembly laying around with a good ABS sensor.
I didn't thought that it is possible to get this thing out here.
And now we're removing the ABS sensor from the car.
Oh no.
The bolt snapped.
That's not good.
So I tried welding something onto the bolt without getting too much heat into the wheel hub assembly. But this didn't work either. Fortunately, BMW made a threaded hole directly above, and now we are bolting it up, and it fits.
Now comes the big question. Is it away? Shut up. It is away? Oh my gosh! It worked! So now we're going to fix the fuel level sensor. The car isn't showing me how much fuel is in the tank. This is a fuel level sensor and it has a swimmer here which swims on top of the fuel. And here is a small plate and there are two contact points. The plate is attached to the swimmer and with moving that it changes the resistance and this signal then gets to the tachometer and then it shows you the fuel level.
Now everything gets installed in reverse order.
Okay. Plug it in. So, let's test it. And I'm pretty happy that this works because otherwise I don't want to drive because, you know, I don't want to get stranded anywhere with an old BMW.
I am under the water. Please help me.
Next, I want to replace a section of the brake line because my work there wasn't quite beautiful and I want to redo it.
I suspected that the workshop which will inspect my car would complain about it.
So here you can see the two brake lines I'm not really satisfied with. You can see here it touches the fuel tank here and here.
Which can lead to a leaky fuel tank and also failing brake lines. We are snipping these lines because we won't use them anymore.
I have finished one brake line and I think it looks much better. So let's test fit it. This here looks actually pretty good.
And after tightening every connection, these lines are finished.
Guys, I have some new parts for the E39 and it's pretty big. So let's unbox it. Can you guess what it is? I just want to replace the stabilizer bar because on my car it's pretty rotten. You can see it here. And to be honest, these bushings don't look great either. So I thought why not buying the whole stabilizer bar, and it costs me 36 euros.
Therefore we need to remove the 2 bolts in the back, then the wheels. And now we can undo the last 2 nuts, which are so hard to reach, thanks to the engineering team of BMW. And now we can fish out this big boy.
These two are looking exactly the same.
I'm so glad that we are replacing the whole stabilizer in the back. The old links have their better days behind them.
For now we are just putting in the bolts and not torquing them up, because we're going to do them up when the car is on the ground again.
Rubber bushings are tightened when the car is at ride height, so they don't stay twisted and wear out faster. And luckily this car is like a bus. We don't even need a jack to torque them.
Hello!
There is one rusty spot left. We need to fix it. So, first let's remove the old rusty material. Then we weld in a new panel.
This car is officially fully welded. So let's remove the welder from the car here.
Grind down all the seams. And now it is time to protect it. At first degreasing and then some underbody primer. Looks great again.
Look what I've got for the E39. Some new tires. They look so good, but smell disgusting. Unpopular opinion, I love this Coca-Cola vanilla. And now we need to fix some wires with the E39. Horrible. So I have bought some solder connectors. Now we're going to fix this mess. At first we're going to unplug the battery.
A solder connector works by using a hot air gun to melt a special metal inside, which then sticks the wires together. So we are putting the connector on one wire, then twist the copper lines of these cables together and put the connector directly over them and heat it up.
Finally, after 3 hours I think, I have finally done every single wire. And the thing is, I had to extend them from here and put in new wires because they were all broken.
Take a look at these new tires, they just look astonishing. Now we thought, let's just swap the wheels, just as easy as that. But there was an issue. The weights on the inside of the rim, which make the wheels balanced, touch the tie rod. That's an issue. 3 out of 4 wheels are good, but one is just simply touching something.
So the next step is to make a DIY alignment.
At first we are loosening 2 nuts that hold the tie rods in their position.
On this side here we already made an alignment with a string. And we measured everything.
Okay, I have to admit, this isn't really the most accurate alignment ever. But hey, it's at least fun and it works. At first, we put a measurement device, aka steel tube, on the rear tire. With the help of that, we are making sure the string is exactly parallel to the car. Now we put our attention on the front tires. The string helps us figure out whether the tire is tilted in one direction or not. Then we are turning the inner tie rod to correct the position of the wheels.
So now we need to replace the hood latch cable because, yeah, I'm going to show you that quickly. It's not attached anymore.
Honestly, this one surprised me. A few days before the dreaded inspection, the hood cable just tore apart. The whole time it was fine, just like the car didn't want to expose its heart. But also this issue did get fixed pretty quickly.
So here are the hood latches, and we have these pins here on the hood which latch into that hole here. It needs to get centered in here. So therefore I have put on some duct tape, push the hood onto it like that. We get this indent here, and this here is actually pretty centered. And now we're going to do that on the other side too. So the indent here on this side is also centered.
Well, and now we are cleaning the engine a bit. And now it is time for the first wash in a few years.
Come a little closer, I wanna dance with you. Everything's moving slower, I don't know what it is you do.
The last thing before the inspection, the rubbing tire. The tire shop just simply took out the weight. According to them, the wheel is without this weight within spec.
Do you remember your first ride? Mine was a Mazda 6 diesel, 120 horses, 330 Newton meters of torque. Unfortunately, I had to let her go. But I still feel the torque, even to this day. And with this car, I'm chasing this feeling again. We are currently driving to the inspection, and I really hope we can pass it. No, we did not. And to be honest, the reasons why we didn't pass with this BMW E39 are quite hilarious. So the thing is, the battery has nothing that holds it in. Apparently the holders are there, so now we are trying to unscrew them and screw them back in. It is pretty rusty, so I hope I won't break the bolt. At first we're going to unplug the battery. This big boy is heavy. Hopefully we can remove it. Okay, this doesn't sound very promising, to be honest. Don't break. Guys, I think we got it. How it is. Next thing we have to do is to remove the steering wheel. And as you can see here, it is broken. Here. Not good. I'm certified for that, yeah? No worries. I don't want to do this anymore. I have removed these airbags so often right now. Not removed. So, and now we can remove the steering wheel. Strong. And now we can remove it. Whoop. Need the keys. Keys. Sorry, my guy.
We need to modify the E46 steering wheel a little bit, because the airbag is bigger on the E39. But before we can finish that, we need to do something else first.
The next issue is the cluster. As you can see here, some pixels are missing and we need to fix this.
So let's take out the cluster. For that we need to remove the trims and then take out 5 screws. Let's catch these missing pixels. At first we're disassembling everything, and since I don't want to remove the needles, we need a hot iron to get to the screws to remove the display. Now it is. Now we're cleaning the contacts with some acetone and Q-tips, put on the new LCD and reinstall everything.
We're just going to plug it in for now, because if it doesn't work, I need to remove it again and do the whole same thing once more. This will be a big moment for all of us, because if I can do something like that, everyone can. Well, let's go. I'm still missing a few pixels, but we can read the kilometers, and that is the important bit. I already have swapped the steering wheel from the BMW E46 in here. On the steering wheel, when it was unmodified, the airbag wouldn't fit in it. So I had to remove a little bit of a lip here. One thing crossed off the list. Apparently, here on the E39s there is a bracket above the battery. But I don't have this bracket here, and I don't want to spend 50 euros on a bracket. That's why we are fabricating it ourselves. Okay, to be honest, this battery holder is a little bit over-engineered, but you know, the battery is holding, and that's what I wanted to achieve.
To avoid some rust, we are painting it. First some primer, then base coat and some clear coat.
Let's put on the bracket. Great. Perfect. This cover here also was a big reason why this car didn't pass. So I bought a new one for 25 euros. One more issue resolved.
And also the hood latch got stuck, so we need to remove both kidney grills and then properly attach them with some glue. Otherwise they wouldn't fit perfectly. Paid 40 euros for them and they aren't fitting properly. But after this modification, the latch now fits perfectly. Every time when I'm a little bit in the down phase, I take a seat in this car and just rev it a little bit. And suddenly, I remember why I'm doing all this here. We need to replace the window wipers. The rubber is brittle. I should have done it in the first place, to be honest. The last issue we need to solve is a loose heating shield. To be honest, it won't go anywhere, but it is wiggling a bit. So therefore, we just put in 2 bolts and now it sits tightly.
I just really hope. I just want to drive it on the road so badly. We finally got it. I'm just so happy that we can finally drive this car on the road. After 1 year of hard work with so many ups and downs. To be honest, when I was repairing the rust, I just thought we just need to bring it to the scrapyard. Driving with this car is just weird. I don't know, I feel like I'm doing something illegal here, but I'm not. It's just so weird that this car is finally on the road.
There's one thing left to do before we are going on a road trip to Munich. We need to fix the AC. After swapping the engine, I haven't put on the belt for the AC compressor. So now we are doing that here. So therefore I need to remove the fan clutch and then we are putting on the belt.
So we are going to try the AC and see if it works.
But to be honest, I'm doubting it. And even ChatGPT thinks it will not work.
And now it's on. I think it is getting cooler. The AC! It works! For a car that stood like 7 years, that is amazing. Normally this wouldn't work on a car like that, but it is getting cold in here.
And now we are going to drive to the famous 4-cylinder building from BMW. And we are also visiting some family members.
So much to take to the car. I don't want this.
This road trip is going to be about 1,600 kilometers long. Let's hope the car won't break down.
Let's go drive. Working. So after driving about I think it was 400 kilometers, we are now doing the first stop and we are going to sleep. But going to sleep with or in an E39 is pretty comfortable. It's like a bed. Good night. We are currently driving with a Bavarian car in Bavaria. Wow. And we are driving to Munich. So, you know, the famous Autobahn. So let's drive. Hey. We are in Munich and It is actually pretty cool here. We are now going to drive somewhere this car should probably know. We should see it in any moment. This one on the right here.
There it is.
BMW Headquarters. I don't even need Google Maps anymore because I already scouted out all of the area before driving here. It's actually pretty cool to be here. I don't know why, but I like it. All BMW. All of this here. All of that here. The tower again. Bye bye BMW Tower. See you. 210. Crazy. Dog. Hello.
The car did absolutely great. We had no issues at all. I'm so happy.
It's just my daily driver right now.